Have you recently experienced any RFEs or from USCIS or the Department of State regarding the origination and accumulation of invested funds? And if so, how do you typically address those type of RFEs?
Yes. So with the source of funds, bulk of the homework is done way in advance in the beginning of the case to make sure everything is airtight and making sure the client doesn't make any transactions or use any source of funds that's going to be risky. So that when if you do get an RFE, you're confident that your response will be very strong. The worst case to be in is where there's a whole bunch of mistakes made with the source of fund, a fund transfer, and then you get an RFE on it, and the response is just basically begging for mercy because it is truly done in the wrong way, such as funds being transferred directly from a third party to the U.S. enterprise without the applicant ever having control or possession of the funds. Or there's a cash transaction where the investment fund source is commingled with all kinds of other funds, where the adjudicator can no longer determine what source of fund is being actually utilized for the E2 investment. So yes, I mean, and even with very careful source of funds due diligence that are always done over the years, and sometimes the clients think I'm crazy, I'm worse than an IRS auditor. This past 12 months, still sometimes get RFE on source of funds where they're diving into the weeds. They're looking at the bank transfer transaction description language. So sometimes with some country, transferring money out of the country is restricted. You can't just transfer US dollar out of the country for any reason. It's only permissible for limited reason, for education purposes, for living expense purposes. So you have to put in a transaction wire transfer description that the money is for an acceptable reason. If you say it's going to be for business investment in the United States, your fund transfer from the origin country could be denied. So now the adjudicator is saying, hey, this transaction description is talking about for a completely different purpose than an E2 investment. So that doesn't make any sense to us. Justify that. So then you try to explain, but then you're sweating bullets because now they could accuse you of misrepresenting the purpose of your transfer to the origin authorities. So they're really diving into these kind of weeds, and so financial due diligence is becoming even more important. Like sometimes I feel like I'm a forensic accountant looking at all these documents.
I
But
can imagine.
that's the reality we're dealing with now. Yeah.
And I guess it, along those lines, I mean, how can attorneys better collaborate, I guess, us as business plan writers to anticipate
Yeah.
officers' concerns uh, before that filing? I mean, particularly when facing page limits at consulates as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the misconceptions about consular E2 application is the business plan has limited use because we're only able to include a small excerpt of the business plan for the consular E2 application. To me, at least, that's not true at all. At the consular application, even if I'm not able to include a full business plan in the E2 consular E2 package, I use the business plan in two very important ways. Number one is I use a lot of the details in the attorney cover letter to help me advocate for the non-marginality and the potential success of the business. I'm not a market research analyst. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an accountant. So I rely on the business plan for these type of financial data and market research and analysis and marketing strategies to craft my arguments in the attorney letter of the potential success of the business. So I rely on that. Otherwise, I'm drawing a blank because a lot of time clients are unable to articulate these kind of strategy and details and numbers because they're more of an idea guy, they're an entrepreneur. They provide kind of confusing or disorganized information about the financials and the market analysis. So I rely on the business plan a lot for that in my advocacy attorney cover letter. Number two is nowadays the embassy interview is becoming more extensive. I notice the questions are more extensive. Back in the old days, 10 plus years ago, or The year that really I noticed the scrutiny ratcheting up was 2017. Like prior to 2017, I was very frequently getting small investments like mid 50,000 or less approved for early stage small startup service businesses, consultancy with no employees, no revenue, and felt really confident in getting approval. I noticed that starting 2017, things changed. The rules didn't change, but adjudication scrutiny and strictness changed. And so now in the past 12, I didn't think it could get more challenging, but last 12 months, the embassy interview questions, even in Toronto, have become more extensive. So now the client's performance in interview is super critical to the final decision. And some clients are great communicators, fantastic. Some are not. Some have poor English. Some have really trouble communicating. And the officer, they have very little patience. They have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, or in the rare cases, more time. But they don't have patience for someone that doesn't communicate well. So I advise the client to really study that business plan, use it as like a study guide, the key preparation material, so that they can become an advocate. I tell clients when they approach the officer at the embassy interview window, treat it as if they're pitching their business to investors. Do not be a boring regurgitator of facts about your business. The key is to create an emotional transference of the excitement that you have, the confidence that you have in the business potential, and the great future that you see for your business. And that your business plan is not wishful thinking, but they're based on real research, credible projections. And the business plan is a great interview preparation tool in my experience because it's laid out in such an organized way. Financial performance, job creation, marketing strategies, marketing research, executive summary, summarizing the ownership structure, sometimes their parent subsidiary, multiple ownership partnership, expenditure table. Usually, like in my support letter, attorney letter, I'll break down the investment in even greater detail line item because of the trauma dealing with USCIS. But in the but when the client reviews that, that is overwhelming. They feel like, how am I going to memorize all this? So the value I see in the journey business plan is that the expenditure table is more palatable, is more digestible. So because sometimes when clients overwhelmed for the embassy interview, then they go into it feeling really anxious. They're trying to memorize so much stuff. It's not about that. It's about being able to communicate properly and conveying that confidence to the officer's mind. And so I use the business plan for that purpose significantly for the embassy. And even though some embassy, the page limitation has gotten so ridiculous, 40 pages, 30 pages, 50 pages, I'm only able to include maybe a handful of pages from the business plan. I still have the client review the entire business plan because I understand how important that interview process is. And fortunately, you and I, we've been working together for a decade now. So the benefit of it is I don't even need to tell you guys what I want to see in the business plan. You must take really good notes. You already, every time I get a draft, I'm like, oh, wow, this is pretty much what I want. And I'm just kind of fine tuning it. So I really appreciate that working relationship so that I don't have to like re-educate the business plan writer for every single case on what we need to see to make it a credible presentation.